Public outrage is boiling over. Fight to the end. People across China are rising up in protests, clashing fiercely with police. The CCP may soon face the consequences of the people's wrath. China sees surge in wage protests across industries, from workers and security guards to teachers and nurses. Brother 800 set fire to a factory demanding unpaid wages, becoming a public hero. In the next life, I don't want to be Chinese anymore. No dreams, no hope, struggling to survive every day. The harsh reality of life for Chinese people living under CCP rule. The struggle intensifies as the anti-Xi movement reaches Xi Jinping's daughter, Mingze. President Trump's order barring Harvard from enrolling foreign students sends shockwaves. Chinese students fear leaving the U.S. This is New Century, committed to bringing you truth, clarity, and deeper understanding in a time of noise and uncertainty. Public outrage is boiling over. Fight to the end. People across China are rising up in protests, clashing fiercely with police. The CCP may soon face the consequences of the people's wrath. Increasing desperation fuels public discontent with the CCP. Citizens from all walks of life continuously struggle to defend their rights. However, as long as the CCP remains in power, fairness in society is absent, and people have nowhere to seek justice. The people's resistance is frequently suppressed, with arrests and injuries inflicted by police, causing widespread grievances to simmer across society. The CCP's tyranny, defying the will of the people, has led to a phenomenon where officials force the people to rebel. This tension is intensifying and could eventually engulf all of China. On May 18th, in Taoyuan Village, Chongli Town, Dongpo District, Meishan City, over 100 villagers blocked a major road to demand justice. Their village has been suffocated by toxic emissions from nearby factories, while a 2-decade-old promise of relocation remains unfulfilled. They demanded the government honor its relocation commitments and restore clean air and a healthy homeland. Villagers held signs reading, "Give us back our blue skies, fulfill relocation promises, we want to live," and chanted, "The government broke its word. Toxic gas harms people." Instead of addressing the villagers' concerns, a large number of police with shields and batons arrived, ordering them to disperse or face consequences. Villagers pleaded, "We're not causing trouble, we're forced to do this." But the police ignored them and cleared the area. A man in his 60s was struck by a baton, collapsing and clutching his head in pain. A young man protecting his mother was forcibly taken away. The protest was quickly suppressed, with police using violence to disperse the crowd, beating and detaining villagers, some of whom remain missing. Information about the event was entirely removed from mainland Chinese social media, with videos and posts vanishing overnight. Taoyuan Village, once a gem of Dongpo District, has been plagued since 2000 when the local government built a sprawling industrial park nearby for economic development. Pharmaceutical, chemical, and pickle factories sprang up, emitting pungent chemical odors and toxic gases. Once known for clear air and the sound of frogs at night, the village now suffers from a foul smell that irritates throats. Villagers report frequent coughing among the elderly and children, yellowed water wells, and livestock falling ill after drinking. In 2024, a local doctor privately warned that long-term exposure could lead to respiratory diseases or cancer, but no official environmental reports have been released. Villagers are further enraged by unfulfilled government promises. In 2005, authorities and developers pledged to relocate Taoyuan Village to a new site with modern housing and compensation after the industrial park's completion. 20 years later, no relocation has occurred, and villagers' demands are repeatedly delayed. Villager Ms. Lee said, "They told us to wait, but the air keeps getting worse. Kids can't even play in the yard. The government just says, wait more, but for how long?" Another villager lamented, "We don't even have the right to voice our grievances. Our phones are monitored." Other notable protests have also faced brutal CCP suppression. On the evening of May 16th, the Shanhui Market, a decades-old commercial hub in Kadian District, Wuhan, Hubei, was violently demolished by CCP authorities. Labeled a roadblock for being on the planned route of Zuan Avenue, a major urban artery, The market faced demolition despite merchants' refusal to relocate. A merchant stated the market had legal property ownership documents, but the demolition team failed to present valid legal documents or permits. Video footage showed over 100 individuals in security uniforms with covered faces wielding sticks to smash shops and assault resisting merchants. On the early morning of May 7th in Guangzhou Village, Haojiang District, Shantou City, Guangdong, villagers staging a sit-in on a highway to protect their rights were suppressed by over 100 heavily armed police with several detained. The conflict arose in 2024 when the Guangzhou Community Committee secretly sold the Qianjiang typhoon shelter and demanded villagers move their fishing boats out. Villagers argued their small boats could not adapt to other shelters' conditions and refused to relocate. On May 6th, the local government and Dahao typhoon shelter sent trucks to forcibly remove the boats, prompting villagers to block the highway. By early morning on May 7th, over 100 police and riot officers with batons and shields charged the sit-in, dragging several villagers away. Under CCP rule, citizens have no outlet for complaints. In 2024, the CCP's Cyberspace Administration upgraded its keyword censorship system, filtering content related to protests or rights defense. Despite domestic censorship, overseas social media platforms circulate numerous videos of suppressed protests. However, these are just the tip of the iceberg, as frequent protests across China reflect the peak of public outrage. Freedom House's China Dissent Monitor report notes that protests involve diverse groups: workers, religious groups, homeowners, farmers, students, parents, investors, consumers, activists, Tibetans, Mongolians, spanning nearly every sector. Chinese human rights lawyer Wu Xiaoping told Radio Free Asia that the CCP operates as a dictatorial machine, not a defender of social justice. Its judicial system often creates social problems, leaving citizens no choice but to protest as a last resort. They're completely forced into a corner. On January 16, 2025, Human Rights Watch's 2025 World Report stated that the Chinese government continued systematic human rights suppression in 2024. From freedom of speech to religious freedom, the Chinese government maintained tight control throughout 2024, said Maya Wang, Deputy China Director at Human Rights Watch. The government enacted harsher human rights laws, imprisoned critics and activists, and made reporting on human rights abuses across the country increasingly difficult. The CCP's failure to address issues relying solely on suppression has intensified social conflicts. Many commentators warn that Chinese society is like a repressed volcano, ready to erupt at any moment. The first sparks have already emerged, and when the eruption comes, the CCP will face the consequences. As the saying goes, when the people no longer fear the CCP, it will be the CCP's turn to fear the people. China sees surge in wage protests across industries, from workers and security guards to teachers and nurses. China's worsening financial crisis is spreading across all sectors. Over the past few days, multiple collective wage protests have erupted across the country, affecting not only construction workers but also public service sectors, including teachers, sanitation workers, and healthcare professionals. In Nanning, Guangxi, 32 construction workers owed wages by Guangxi Power Transmission Construction Commonwealth Limited have been camping outside the company's entrance since May 16th, setting up tents and cooking over fires, declaring they are prepared for a prolonged struggle. On May 18th, a collective wage protest took place at a China Communications Construction Group project site in Shijiazhuang, Hebei. Workers displayed banners, protesting prolonged wage delays. Radio Free Asia reported that one worker said the company repeatedly promised payments since the Chinese New Year but failed to deliver. At the Yangqin Expressway project in Guangdong, a section contracted by China Railway 7th Bureau also faced collective action over wage disputes. On May 19th, workers gathered outside the project office, demanding payment of overdue salaries. On the overseas social media platform X, user yesterday posted videos showing that on May 19th to 20th, workers from Qianlima Embroidery Factory in Haimen, Nantong, Jiangsu, protested at the factory and the owner's home for 2 consecutive days but still received no wages. On May 17th, workers at Yunda Express in Dongyang, Jinhua, Zhejiang went on strike for 2 days to demand their salaries. On May 16th, security guards at Wangzhenghui Shopping Center in Suining, Sichuan, protested with banners at the mall entrance after a middleman absconded with their wages. That same day, laid-off workers from Longmei Group in Kitaihe, Heilongjiang, protested outside the city government, demanding 3 months of unpaid basic allowances, social security, and medical insurance. Beyond construction, the education system is also grappling with wage arrears. On May 20th, several non-tenured teachers in Zhaozhuang, Shandong, revealed their salaries had been unpaid for 6 months. An elementary school teacher said, "Our monthly salary is just over 3,000 yuan, approximately 417 USD, and for the past 6 months, we've been living on borrowed money." A teacher in Shanxi posted on Xiaohongshu, stating that their school demanded the return of year-end bonuses issued since 2021 and certain after-school service fees, sparking widespread discontent among teachers. Wage issues have also surfaced in the healthcare and sanitation sectors. A nurse from a public hospital in Gansu stated online that her monthly salary is only 1,300 yuan, approximately $180, with performance bonuses unpaid for 4 months, plunging her into financial hardship. A female sanitation worker in Jiangxi tearfully said, "I start work at 5 a.m. every day, working over 10 hours for just 1,400 yuan a month. I don't want to be human in my next life. It's too hard." Zhang, a retired professor from Guizhou University, noted that high local government debt and tightened central policies have severely disrupted local fiscal operations, directly harming frontline workers and contract employees. He said in the past, wage protests involved migrant workers. Now they include teachers, doctors, and sanitation workers. This shows the Chinese Communist Party's stability structure is beginning to backfire. These are the most vulnerable groups labeled troublemakers when they speak out, but in reality, they're just trying to survive. Brother 800 set fire to a factory demanding unpaid wages, becoming a public hero. The most shocking wage dispute in China recently involves a 27-year-old employee named Wen at Jinyu Textile Company in Sichuan. Driven to despair by 800 yuan, approximately 110 USD in unpaid wages, Wen set fire to the factory, causing a blaze that lasted about 37 hours and resulted in significant property damage. The incident sparked widespread online discussion, with Wen dubbed Brother 800 by netizens, many of whom expressed sympathy for his plight, describing it as being pushed to the brink. According to insiders, Wen clashed with the company over unpaid wages. He went to the finance department with a knife to demand his 800 yuan, got into an argument, injured a staff member, and then set fire to the workshop curtains, which sparked a massive fire. After the act, Wen did not flee. Instead, he sat on the factory steps smoking, willingly extending his hands to be handcuffed when police arrived. Wang Shudong, a Yibin netizen, told Radio Free Asia on May 23rd that the incident triggered nationwide online debate, prompting reflection on systemic failures. When people owed wages seek legal help, judges and labor officials disappear. But after Mr. Wen set the fire, police and judges appeared. When ordinary people try to defend their rights legally, the law is a worthless piece of paper. Workers demanding their salaries are labeled as engaging in malicious wage demands. So why isn't withholding wages called malicious non-payment? The law protects the interests of those in power. Wang added that news reports indicated Wen came from a poor family with a seriously ill mother in urgent need of money. I read online that his family was already struggling, with his mother sick, yet the boss withheld his hard-earned 800 yuan. Sichuan scholar Tang Gang commented that Chinese society is heading toward an unpredictable future, with interpersonal relationships growing increasingly tense under economic downturn pressures. From a traditional society where conflicts could be resolved or accommodated, it has become a brutally confrontational society that cannot reconcile or coexist. This is the result of over a decade of social transformation, with one person claiming the greatest credit. On the X platform, user Gufeng wrote, The internet is buzzing with praise for Brother 800. I admire his resolute expression when facing the police. Remarkably, he notified all employees before setting the fire, ensuring zero casualties. Listen to this. After I'm gone, they'll pay your wages without delay. Not because they've become kind, but because I was here. Brother 800. In recent days, Brother 800 has become a trending hashtag and search term on social media. Some call him a hero, while others criticize his actions as endangering other workers' lives, warning it's not worth emulating. One netizen commented, "An ordinary man burned a factory over 800 yuan. How helpless he must have felt." Another said, "Brother 800 sought justice everywhere, but no one listened." After he set the fire, the law came looking for him. Whose fault is this, really? In the next life, I don't want to be Chinese anymore. No dreams, no hope, struggling to survive every day. The harsh reality of life for Chinese people living under CCP rule. The Chinese economy is deteriorating, and industries are in decline. Under Communist Party rule, television news portrays a false prosperity filled with skyscrapers and vibrant performances. In reality, grassroots people live in dire straits, fighting daily to survive. Many sigh that they would not want to be Chinese in their next life. It's too exhausting. Netizens also claim that under the current communist regime, people are barely surviving, living worse than animals. The masses languish at the bottom of society's death line, enduring the most oppressive and brutal rule in history. Under the shadow of this foreign specter of communism, they see no hope at all. Let's take a closer look at the struggles of China's grassroots and why hope feels so far away. A recent survey captured the raw despair of workers and vendors across China. Many shared their exhaustion, with some saying they wouldn't come back to this world due to relentless hardship. One person put it starkly, "Life here is too bitter, weighed down by endless pain and the constant fight to get by." For those born in the 1980s, juggling care for aging parents and young kids leaves no room for personal needs. Even small expenses like a pack of cigarettes require careful planning. Take a 56-year-old construction worker grinding from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 170 to 180 yuan, about $25 a day. He called it trading life for money. Without specialized skills, he relies on backbreaking labor and shrugs off criticism about his dirty clothes. "I'm not stealing or robbing, my money's honest." Marriage dowries now 120,000 to 130,000 yuan, roughly $16,600 to $18,000, feel impossible. "You can't earn that in a lifetime," he said. Street vendors face similar struggles. An 83-year-old vendor with no government aid sells vegetables to survive. A 68-year-old lives on steamed buns and eggs, while a 70-year-old concrete worker gets by on 2 yuan meals, about 28 cents, for soup and buns. He admitted to eating wild vegetables, saying, "If I don't work, I can't eat." These stories, from dusty construction sites to roadside stalls, paint a picture of a society where hard work barely keeps people afloat, and dreams of a better life feel out of reach. One vendor summed it up, "In the next life, I'd rather be a dog or a horse than a human." Critics argue that despite China's claim to the world's second-largest economy, its grassroots are stuck in poverty. While Communist Party officials live in luxury, ordinary citizens struggle to afford food or clothes. Netizens point out that the dire straits once read about in textbooks are a harsh reality in China's poorest areas today. The massive wealth gap, unfair household registration system, oppressive surveillance, and flawed poverty programs, where welfare often goes to the powerful, have created a broken society. The poor are left hungry and cold. In Beijing, a 60-year-old construction worker earns just 100 yuan, about $14 a day, with no days off unless it rains. "Tired, but what can you do?" he asked. His 100 yuan monthly pension pales next to the 3,000 to 10,000 yuan, 416 to 1,387 pensions of retired officials. "Is that fair?" he said, voicing a common frustration. Online, people call the Communist Party's prosperity narrative a sham. In Wuhan, a 3 a.m. street corner tells a similar story. Migrant workers gather under a bridge after long shifts, surviving on 2 yuan bowls of porridge, about 28 cents, the city's cheapest meal. A 68-year-old cleaner earns 50 to 60 yuan, $7, for 8-hour shifts. A 63-year-old street sweeper makes 1,400 won, $194, a month, with just a week off for the new year. Enjoy life? Who's going to give me money? She asked, jealous of retirees with fat pensions. These workers in ragged clothes and flimsy helmets share rundown rooms, with one saying, 301 rents a place for 7 or 10 people. For many, work is their only lifeline, but jobs are scarce and wages often shrink. A 60-year-old grandfather with no dreams left said, "In the next life, I'd rather be anything but human." These voices reveal a society where hard work barely sustains life, and deep inequities leave ordinary people teetering on the edge, longing for a future they can't imagine. As China's economic woes deepen, the gap between the elite and the grassroots grows wider. Can this system hold, or will the people's despair spark change? The struggle intensifies as the anti-Xi movement reaches Xi Jinping's daughter, Mingze. Xi Jinping is facing an unlucky year, with his close allies being purged one after another. His wife Peng Liyuan rumored to have lost her military position, and now the fire has spread to his daughter, Mingze. Independent commentator Kai Shen-kun posted on the social platform X on May 21st, noting that U.S. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard had written, Xi Jinping's daughter received a full scholarship at Harvard, and questioned why Harvard, a supposed world-class institution, would grant Xi Jinping's daughter, Mingze, a full scholarship. Was it due to exceptional academic merit or to appease a communist regime? Harvard, which claims to be a top global academic institution, appears to embrace and flatter authoritarian regimes. Gabbard raised further questions in her post, asking why a university that promotes democracy like Harvard would offer a full scholarship to Xi Jinping's daughter. Why did the Obama administration grant a U.S. visa to a dictator's child? Should the U.S. prohibit the children of authoritarian leaders from studying or immigrating to the United States? Gabbard also shared a photo purportedly of Mingze. Once it surfaced, overseas communities erupted in discussion. Some claim the photo was leaked in 2022 when U.S. Representative Hartzler raised concerns in Congress about Harvard accepting CCP funds and admitting dictators' children. In other words, Mingze's name has long been on the radar of U.S. officials, but now the tides have shifted. The U.S. is targeting Xi with unrelenting pressure. This revelation signals the collapse of the CCP's tightly controlled system. Reflecting on the past 6 months of Zheng Nanhai's power struggles, from the ousting of Li Shengfu and Qin Gang to Li Keqiang's mysterious death, and even rumors that Peng Liyuan's military rank was revoked and Ding Xuexiang marginalized, these events point to one conclusion. The Xi family's grip on power is spiraling out of control, teetering on the edge of collapse. Publicly naming Mingze shows that even a red princess is not untouchable. This comes as the U.S. discusses sanctions against CCP leaders, including freezing their U.S. assets, imposing visa restrictions, and investigating money laundering and espionage. Highlighting Mingze now is likely a strategic move to prepare public opinion for future sanctions. In the U.S., narrative warfare is a refined art. Release a photo, raise a question, let the media amplify it, stoke public outrage, and then roll out policies. It's a calculated playbook. Even if Xi Jinping avoids downfall, he will face painful concessions to mitigate the damage. The photo of Mingze isn't just about her, it exposes the sprawling network of the CCP's red aristocracy. For ordinary Chinese citizens, getting into Harvard is a monumental challenge, requiring not only top grades, but also the ability to afford $50,000 to $60,000 or more in annual tuition. Yet Mingze not only secured admission, but reportedly received a full scholarship and 24/7 protection by 8 bodyguards. Where did this money come from? Peng Liyuan's salary? Xi Jinping's paycheck, which amounts to just a few $100,000 yuan annually? Let's be clear, This is a princess sustained by the blood and sweat of the Chinese people, her lavish Western lifestyle funded by corrupt authoritarian power. Xi Mingze is more than an individual. She symbolizes the CCP elite's corrupt system. Far from a typical international student, she represents how the party's elite siphon off public funds, convert them into US dollars, buy properties, secure foreign identities, and send their children to elite institutions like Harvard. For years, the overseas assets, identities, and degrees of Chinese leaders' families have been carefully concealed. But now, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence is tearing the veil off, exposing these secrets in a bold act of political warfare aimed directly at the Xi family. Internal dissent within the CCP is growing louder, while external pressures, particularly from the U.S., are intensifying. As the U.S. delivers blow after blow, more of Xi's family members and hidden assets may soon be exposed. During Xi's visit to Vietnam, a female entourage member resembling Xi Mingze was spotted, simply dressed but exuding an unmistakable presence, unlike an ordinary translator or assistant. Online rumors suggested she was there on her father's behalf to visit CCP embassy staff, with some claiming she said, "We've advised Dad to retire. It's time to pass the baton." Whether true or not, the spread of such rumors signals a brewing dynastic transition within the CCP, perhaps an attempt to use a red princess to ease tensions and stabilize the regime. This storm is only beginning. More revelations are likely to follow. Xi Mingze's passport, the sources of her funds, U.S. properties, or illicit financial ties between the CCP and Harvard. As these details emerge, many Chinese citizens will question why they toil and pay taxes to support a government that uses their money to send its leaders' children to Harvard while preaching endurance and common prosperity. Isn't this the greatest deception of all? President Trump's order barring Harvard from enrolling foreign students sends shockwaves. Chinese students fear leaving the U.S. A seismic shift hit Harvard this week, and it's left thousands of international students reeling. On May 23rd, President Donald Trump announced the revocation of Harvard University's certification under the Student and Exchange Visitor Program. The move, which effectively bars Harvard from enrolling foreign students, comes with serious accusations from Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. She claims Harvard promotes violence, anti-Semitism, and has ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Harvard is fighting back, filing a lawsuit that's led to a temporary block of the order by a federal judge. But for the university's international students, particularly those from China, who make up 20% of its foreign student body, the uncertainty is overwhelming. Many have scrapped plans to travel home this summer, gripped by fear that leaving the U.S. could mean they won't be allowed back to finish their degrees. China's Cover News spoke with a Chinese student, using the pseudonym Li Sha, who described the announcement as feeling like the sky was falling. Her dreams of studying abroad in Kenya, India, and Ukraine next semester are now in jeopardy. If the ban holds, she faces tough choices: transfer to another school, take a leave of absence, or wait for U.S. policy to shift. The situation is even more urgent for Chinese students who've already left the U.S. for Harvard's summer break. They now face the very real possibility of being locked out of their education. One student, 21-year-old Zhang Kaiki, a master's student in public health, shared her story with Reuters. She was set to fly back to China on May 23rd, bags packed, ready for a summer internship with an American nonprofit in her home country. But the ban forced her to cancel her flight, leaving her internship and her plans in limbo. She says the most anxious students are those with summer research assistant roles at Harvard, positions critical for their visa status and future PhD applications. Another student, a 24-year-old Chinese physics PhD candidate, surnamed Zhang, also spoke with Reuters. He voiced growing fears among his peers about their visas and internships. Some are so concerned that they're questioning their safety. Zhang shared a chilling detail. A friend warned that if tensions escalate, it might not even be safe to stay in their current apartments, fearing immigration and customs enforcement agents could show up at their doors. We appreciate you joining us at New Century. In a world filled with noise, we strive to bring clarity and truth. If that mission speaks to you, please subscribe, engage in the discussion, and help us grow this community of thoughtful viewers. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.